All right, so good afternoon to everyone, students, parents, teachers, our first Lego League participants. I would like to greet everyone a good afternoon. I hope everyone has eaten their lunch and are ready for what we have in store today. So, as you guys know, with our upcoming first Lego League competition this February 14, we have been doing some efforts to really reach out and help our students, our teams, learn about this year's theme, Unearth. So for today, we have something in store. As you might know, we have a talk with the experts. We have invited a um, a researcher from our very own National Museum here to talk about archaeology. Before that, allow me to call on our first Lego League Philippines coordinator, Miss Annalyn Aban.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. So, we just concluded the briefing for Board of Judges for this unearthed season, and we're very happy that we are all occupied preparing for the upcoming 15 First Lego League Philippines 2026. So, again, good day and welcome on behalf of First Lego League Philippines and Felta Multimedia Incorporated. Of course, we want to thank you for joining us today. And it's always inspiring to see educators, students, volunteers, and partners really come together with one shared goal to grow together, to become a supportive and future FLL community. So, if you are watching right now, please share this good news because this session will be a great help for all the preparing team for the upcoming 15th FLL competition. So, what are you waiting? Guys, share it to your friends, share it to your classmates, share it to your coaches, to your family, to your friends, so that they will be informed that at this moment we are very excited and we are preparing for the 15th FLL Philippines Unearthed. All right. And then please comment down your school name if you are watching live with us. So as Timothy mentioned, our host for this event, over the past month, our community has been very active and continuously growing. We have strengthened teaching and learning through our Educators Summit. We just concluded those Educators Summit where our educators, our teachers, our coaches collaborate and share practices and align on how to bring FLL into an interactive and meaningful classroom experience. And as you could see, we have empowered our young innovators as well through our student summit that we actually conclude in region 7. And then having this kind of activity, giving student a platform to explore ideas, to build confidence, and connect with fellow FLL teams. So, beyond the classroom, we have enriched learning also through those museum field trip that we that we um that we organize, and we're very thankful and blessed that National Museum is very supportive with this kind of activity, allowing our student to experience science and technology and innovation in real world setting. We have also conducted volunteer briefings so that we could ensure that our volunteers are well prepared and well aligned, because a strong FLL community is built not only by students and by coaches, but also by committed and passionate volunteers. So looking ahead, we are very excited for our FLL competition on February 14, 2026 at De La Salle Santiago Sobel Bermosa Campus in Cavite. And this event will be a celebration of learning, celebration of teamwork and innovation, where student can showcase not just what they have built, but what have they learned through their first Lego League journey. So for today's activity, talked with an expert is part of this continuous effort to make sure our community is well supported. It's very important to us. So through this session, we are providing guidance, insight, and inspiration that will definitely help our educators, our coaches, and volunteers better support our student. In fact, this is what First Lego League stand for: collaboration, continuous learning, and building a community where no one learns alone. Let us remember that learning is not only about what we build on the surface, but also what we are willing to unearth. New ideas, hidden talents, and deeper understanding within our student and our community. As the season reminds us, great discoveries happen when we dare to go deeper and uncover what lies beneath. May today's conversation help us unearth insight that will better support our learners, strengthen our community, and prepare us for the exciting journey ahead. So, what you are waiting for? Share this good news. Share this to your friends, share to your classmates, share it to your teachers, share it to your family so that they know what you are preparing for the 15th first Lego League competition. So if you're watching us right now, please comment down your school, your team name. We are very excited to go ahead for the upcoming 15th FLL competition. And of course, I would like to thank those people behind with this wonderful program in leadership of our president and CEO, Miss Mylene Abiba. So thank you and enjoy the session.
All right. So thank you, Ma'am Anne, for those wonderful words. So again, I hope you are all excited for our event today. As Ma'am Anne mentioned, we really are trying to do our best to give our students, our teams, teachers, coaches the very best resources to up your game and up your projects for this year's first Lego League. Now, so of course, without further ado, I would like to give a brief introduction for our speaker today. He is a museum researcher at the Archaeology Division of the National Museum of the Philippines. With over 8 years of professional experience specializing in the pre colonial wooden coffin collection, he has been involved in various archaeological excavations and explorations around the country, particularly in World War II sites. He is also part of the collections management team of the Archaeology Division, which conserves and manages the National Archaeological Collection of the National Museum of the Philippines. So, isn't that exciting? We have with us a speaker who's really gone out in the field, who's really seen and handled these different artifacts and even the preservation. So, without further ado, let me call on Mr. Ivan B. Cultura.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Am I clear? Can you hear me?
Wait, sorry, sir. I think yung sa microphone,
Okay. Can you hear me now?
wala pa.
Hello. Let's try.
No worries.
Because we are live, you know.
Wala pa rin, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Okay. There. Meron ng konti, sir. I think I can hear you a bit.
Can you hear me now? Is it
Ayan,
clear?
there. Yes, sir.
Wala boses ko siguro.
Oh yes, it's a little low lang, sir, but we can hear.
Okay. Anyway, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am Ivan Cultura, one of the researchers from the Archaeology Division of the National Museum of the Philippines. Thank you for being here also. I hope you learned something from what I will be sharing with you in this afternoon session. So, basically, I will be introducing archaeology to you. I will try to make it as simple as possible para it's easier for you to understand. It's actually a bit complex. It's a another field of science in the archaeology. So yeah, just listen to what I will be sharing with you, the lecture that I will be sharing with you, and I hope you learn something from it. So uh, let's do it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Ivan Cultura, and I am a researcher from the Archaeology Division of the National Museum of the Philippines, and I am here to give a short lecture about archaeology. In this presentation, I will be introducing some of the basic concepts of archaeology. We will also debunk some of the most common misconceptions about the discipline. And of course, we will also discuss some modern tools we use today to help us ease our work. I hope you will learn something from today's lecture. Let us begin. First of all, what is archaeology? Is this the study of dinosaurs? Do we look for treasures? Or do we enter ancient temples and escape booby traps? Well, archaeology is the study of people from the past. We study their ancient life ways, their behavior, all concepts about past cultures. But how do we do that? Since we are studying the people from the past, naturally they are long gone. We're dealing with dead people. So how do we know their life ways, their traditions, or their cultures? Do we interview their spirit? Nagsa-spirit of the glass ba tayo? Ganun ba? We study the past cultures through what they left behind, through the artifacts. So what are artifacts? You can see here in this presentation, these are stone tools, and these are examples of artifacts. How is it different from a normal rock? Well, a normal rock becomes an artifact when there are marks of modification done to it. In this case, the rocks were modified to become stone tools of the prehistoric people. It is sharpened on the edges to be able to slice or cut. Therefore, an artifact is anything that has been modified by humans. Another example is this one. Well, this seems like a simple marking on the surface of the rock. But this is actually a rock art. So yung mga cave paintings or cave drawings, these are rock art that is also being studied by the archaeologists. Like this one, this is a charcoal drawing on the surface of the cave. Here we have a photo of the actual excavation of the Balangay boats in Butuan. So these were used by our ancestors to navigate the seas. This one here is the Manunggul jar. So what is this jar? Well, this is actually a burial jar. So pinaglibingan siya. It used to contain human remains. But what's special about this artifact is that the lid has a depiction of how our ancestors believed in the spiritual concept of afterlife. If you will look closely, there is a boat on the lid, and in front of the boat, there's the spirit of the departed, and at the back of the boat is the one who ferries the boat. Kumbaga siya yung tagahatid sa afterlife. We also find gold in the archaeological context. For example, this is a pair of gold ornament found associated with the dead. So having lucrative items like this actually signifies higher status in the society back then. Interestingly, plant remains like this, so these are grains of rice and plant tissues. These materials tell us about agriculture in the past. So through these materials, we learn that communities planted and consumed rice. Structures like temple ruins or settlement foundations are also studied in archaeology. And then, of course, the physical remains of humans itself provide clues on how they lived. So, all these materials, all these artifacts, give us insight about how past humans lived and interact with each other and the environment. Earlier, I asked you, are archaeologists treasure hunters? Well, the answer is no. Archaeologists are not treasure hunters. In fact, kalaban ng mga archaeologists ang treasure hunters. Treasure hunters are only after the monetary value of whatever they find. They search for gold, they search for antique items which they can sell to black market. They don't document the sites, they actually destroy them. They do not care about the knowledge we can gain from digging the sites. Unlike treasure hunting, archaeology is a science. It involves meticulous documentation of sites and artifacts. Archaeologists are after the knowledge we can learn from the materials left by humans from the past. Archaeologists do not dig dinosaurs. This is also a very common misconception about archaeology, that we also dig fossils of the dinos. But it's not true. It is the paleontologists who dig the dinos. You should remember that archaeologists only deal with the past humans. Dinos and humans never met in the geological timeline. Dinos lived way, way back before the humans lived. To share some archaeological facts, did you know that the earliest evidence of human activity in the Philippines was from 709,000 years ago? Archaeologists found fossils of rhinoceros with marks of butchering surrounded by stone tools. It only implies that as early as 709,000 years ago, humans were hunting animals for food, probably. We don't know who did it, because we only found the rhino fossils with the stone tools. But we know it is human, because only humans has the capability of producing stone tools. Another archaeological fact: the earliest direct evidence of hominin species to live in the Philippines is the Homo luzonensis. The remains were found in Calao Cave in Cagayan. They are much smaller than modern humans or the Homo sapiens. Studies about the Homo luzonensis are still ongoing, but so far, based on what we already found at the site, we know that these small humans probably hunted animals for food, like deer. Now, what is the difference between archaeology and history? Are they different or are they similar disciplines? In history, we study written records, books, newspapers, articles, documents, clay tablets, all those records that were written. Whereas in archaeology, again, we study the artifacts that we unearth from archaeological excavations. History and archaeology are two different disciplines, but they actually complement each other. The disciplines work hand in hand to produce desired research results. In the absence of written records, we consult the artifacts. We consult the clues left behind by the past humans. In archaeology, we also do historical research. Before we were able to do an archaeological dig, we also consult the written records or documents that also provide the necessary information that we need. Learning and understanding the people from the past is the ultimate objective in studying archaeology. We seek answers to questions. We want to uncover the mysteries of humanity that were not recorded in history. We want to know how the past humans lived. Through archaeology, we understand how our ancestors survived, how they lived, where they lived or what they eat, how they treat their dead loved ones, their interaction with one another and with their environment. So all those things we learn through archaeology. Archaeology is a science. But how do we say that archaeology is a science? Well, because we conduct scientific methods, we develop hypotheses, we gather data, we test them, and then we conduct experiments until we arrive in a conclusion. So that is scientific process. In archaeology, we don't do things randomly. We don't just dig random holes on the ground. Everything is measured and backed by scientific research methods. So this is a trowel. This is our primary tool for digging holes. But other than the trowels, we also have notebooks, which is very crucial since we must record every detail in our dig. We also have measuring tools like meter tapes and all that. When digging, everything is documented, everything is recorded. The soil color, the texture, everything, even the small pottery sherds we found on the ground. All of these give clues about the past. Here is an example of a stratigraphic profile. When digging an archaeological site, soil layers are very important because it tells us a lot about the past. In this photo, you can see that below the modern soil layer, you can find artifacts or features from the medieval period. Then if you will dig deeper, you will also find layers of soil from the time of the Roman period. And you will find out more as you go deeper your dig. But archaeology does not end with digging. Actually, an archaeological dig is just about 30% of the total archaeological work. Because after you're done with the digging, you have to process all the artifacts that you have found. You have to wash all the dirt, let it dry, and have a closer look at the materials. In the museum, we even record all these finds, make an inventory record, and photograph each specimen. After processing the specimens, we then analyze the materials. We can measure, we can dock further tests, get the actual radiocarbon dates, and so on. So there is still a long work after the dig. And then, of course, the ultimate goal is to publish our finds. The results of our study have to be published for the advancement of knowledge. So now that you have the basic idea or key concepts in archaeology, let us now discuss some of the modern technology currently applied to assist in the conduct of archaeological studies. With these modern tools, our work becomes easier. There are many advanced tools currently used in archaeology, but I will be mentioning some of the more commonly used technology. Firstly, where do we start? How do we know where we should start our dig? Traditionally, to be able to know the place to dig, we have to do an initial survey of the suspected archaeological site. A survey usually involves conducting interviews among locals, searching for surface finds. So, surface finds, these are artifacts visible on the surface. And then we also dig test pits. Test pits are usually dug on the ground to have an initial understanding of what is beneath the ground. Survey work takes time and resources, and most of the time it is a hit or miss. So, to avoid waste of time and resources, many archaeologists now use remote sensing methods using modern equipment such as LiDAR or GPR. So, what are these equipment and how do they help archaeologists? LiDAR or light detection and ranging. So, imagine working on an archaeological site with thick forest cover. How do you know where to start or what is the extent of your archaeological site if it is covered by thick forest? With LiDAR, it gives the archaeologists an idea of how big their site is. It helps them map the entire site by exposing the features on the ground that cannot be easily seen because of the forest cover. It exposes road network, buried temple foundations, things like that. It uses drones that emit laser. Some are also connected to satellite to take detailed imagery of the ground. This technology is commonly used in sites with thick vegetation, such as in Mesoamerican sites in Central America to reveal the Mayan or Aztec cities. It is also commonly used in anchor sites in Cambodia. Another tool used for remote sensing is the GPR or the ground penetrating radar. It is used like a lawnmower, so it will scan the flat grounds to know if there's something buried under the ground. It will feed you data like this. So the more waves in your data means there is something buried underground. It could be a foundation of a building, it could be a coffin, or it could be anything. With these remote sensing tools, we will be more sure where to start our dig. Other modern tools used are for analyzing the artifacts. This is usually done in the laboratory after you collected the specimens from the archaeological dig. We do this in order to know more about the materials being studied. The data we get from these high-tech analyses give us an in-depth understanding of the material culture. One example would be, of course, radiocarbon dating. Absolute dating is crucial in archaeology because it gives us the rough age of the artifact or the site we are working on. To give you the basic idea about this, we are measuring the approximate age of an organic sample by calculating the decay of the carbon in that material. It's a bit complicated, but at the end of the process, we will have the age of an artifact, maybe 100 years old or maybe 3,000 years old, and so on. There are many other dating methods, but this one is the most common. Another modern tool is getting the DNA of an organic sample. This is all genetics. We are getting unique genetic material and profile of the sample. This helps in many studies in archaeology, especially if it involves analysis of human remains, animal remains, and even plant remains. Another tool used is the XRF or X-ray fluorescence. This tool emits X-ray beams to samples. Let us say we are analyzing a pot. So using XRF, we will be able to know the chemical composition of the clay used to make that pot. This information is important for studies about sourcing of materials, trade and exchange, things like that. In the end, all this technology helped the archaeologists for the advancement of knowledge about the past. This is the end of my presentation. I hope you learned something and become more interested to become an archaeologist. But before I close my presentation, allow me to invite everyone to please visit the National Museum of the Philippines. The product of our research are exhibited in the National Museum of Anthropology. Learn more about our past by visiting your national museum. Thank you very much.
All right. So, thank you, Sir Ivan, for that talk. Now we would like to open the floor for some questions. I know I will give 2 minutes for us to receive your questions. So send in your questions. I think we have our technical team. Once questions come in, they will send it. He will send it here so we can see some of the questions. So, all right, come on, guys. 2 minutes. Send in your questions if you are curious to know anything about archaeology, especially the technology with archaeology. Okay, 1 more minute. I think. Okay, so we have a few already. Let's. Okay, I think we can start with this one. So, Sir Ivan, someone in the comments wants to know what are some of the recent artifacts that you were able to handle or maybe even discover since you have been out in the field a lot. You have a lot of field experience. What is one of the recent um, artifacts you were able to find? Sir, the mic again. Sorry.
Am I clear?
And there, yes.
Okay. So actually, the researchers of the National Museum go out in the field very often. Napakadaming field work and ongoing researches. Some researches go on for years bago kami makakita ng actual na interesting find talaga. Pero the most common na artifacts na nakukuha namin from the site are pottery sherd, Some are the human remains mismo. Kasi ang isa sa mga pinaka-common na finds natin dito sa Philippines mga jar burial from the Metal Age or Neolithic period, mga ganun. So we're talking about 4,000 years ago, mga ganun. Pero personally, ang huli kong na-handle, kasi ang latest ko na site na punta sa akin is World War II site. So we're dealing with crashed planes from World War II. So yeah.
Wow. So World War II. So it's actually really cool na you were able to go to actual sites where something happened back in history. So actually, we have another question here. It's what is the best way to get the artifact, securing it not to be broken? So how are you guys able to secure artifacts without them, you know, having damage? Kasi syempre sayang naman yung
Yeah.
artifact if nagka-damage.
Actually, getting an artifact na hindi broken napaka-rare na circumstance. Parang halos, in my personal experience, wala pa akong na-encounter na intact specimen na nakita namin sa archaeological site. It's always broken. Pero kahit siya broken, we can retrieve it systematically. We can record yung, kumbaga para siyang puzzle pieces which we can reconstruct naman pagdating sa laboratory. Pero yun nga, it's very rare na makakuha ng intact na artifact from the field.
Okay, so oftentimes the artifacts are actually already broken. So thank you for that question. Next, we have from Matt Raymar Sario. He's asking, good afternoon, Sir Ivan. Is there any chemical solution that would easily be able to cleanse out human remains of dirt? So I guess what chemicals do you use when cleaning out, or does it get rid of the human remains of the dirt?
For human remains, actually iniiwasan namin siyang i-wash with any solution or liquid. Mostly for human remains talaga, ano lang siya, mechanical brushing lang ng mga dirt. Siyempre, ayaw naman nating i-treat ng anything na chemical, lalo na maapektuhan kasi ang conservation dahil organic material ang human bones. So, we don't want to apply chemical solution sa mga ganong material. So, kung huhugasan man, kung kailangan talagang hugasan, water lang. Hindi kami nag-a-apply ng chemical sa bones.
Okay. So next we have another question. What problems do archaeologists face when excavating or studying sites? What are the most common problems na you encounter po?
Actually, madami. Isa-isahin ko ba? Okay, so siguro primary, getting funds, really, to be honest. Ang excavating an archaeological site is financially challenging. It's really expensive to maintain or to do a dig, to do an archaeological dig. Pero aside from the financial issues, syempre nandiyan yung we need to deal with the permitting. Not all sites are easily accessible. We need to ask permission from the, let's say, the indigenous peoples who have custody or sino man yung nakakasakop dun sa archaeological site. So we also need to, let's say, deal with the DENR if ever that site is covered by, let's say, it's a protected land. So we have to also follow the rules of different agencies. We need to respect their laws as well, while we are also doing our work. Pero there are also sites that are physically challenging, especially for the World War II sites that I have visited. Most of these sites are really remote. Some are in the mountains. We need to hike several days before we get into that site. So those are the challenges usually.
And so, thank you, sir. We have one here naman is from Debbie Ramos what will happen next to the disturbed site after extraction of artifacts. So what do you guys do after, of course, digging and extracting? What happens to the site after that?
Okay, so part of our work is to do a backfill. So after getting all the artifacts and doing the documentation, all the recording, we have all the artifacts, right? So we don't leave the hole open like that. So of course we will do backfilling. So all the dirt we got from that dig, we will put it back. So it's part of the protocol.
And so even putting back, it's part of the whole process. Kailangan after tools for digging, you also have tools for
Yeah.
returning back to
And
how it looks.
sometimes before we leave the site, we have to have a mitigating plan. We don't leave them, especially if we will be affecting, example, we're digging in a site called protected by the DNR. We need to have a plan to replant in that area. So yeah.
All right, so we have another question here by Burger Enin. Do you often struggle with identifying what's beneath the soil?
Okay, so initially you cannot really identify everything upon digging. Some of the identification is done in the laboratory. So all the in-depth study of the materials are done in the laboratory. So we will be more sure with whatever we find in the site once it reached the laboratory. So there are more analysis being done. Um, what else? There are also experts who will be checking those materials, which are, it's uh, getting information out of the dig is a collaboration. It's not just one person doing it. You always collaborate with other experts, so you will be more sure with whatever information you get from the archaeological site.
Yes. Okay. So, by the way, so we appreciate all the questions, but now I will start picking so that we can have. I guess our goal was 10 to 15 questions, but we will continue. Let's have our next question from Sophia Celine Aban. What technologies, I think was mentioned, drone scanners, but also maybe AI, are currently helping archaeology? So what technologies besides those mentioned, maybe you have a new thing wala that they've been creating nowadays, kasi syempre with AI and everything, what technologies go into helping our archaeology?
Well, as mentioned earlier, we're already using drones, especially for remote scanning of the sites. For scanning, there are other laboratories, I think abroad. They use CT scans to navigate what's inside. Let's say we have a sealed chest or sealed coffin. So to be able not to, destroy or do what do you call this destructive method of opening that, you just do a CT scan first to be able to see what's inside. So what else? AI, I'm not sure if AI is being used for archaeology. I have no idea yet. But yeah, those are the technologies commonly used in archaeology.
Yes, but drones, I think drones are relatively new then, because I know when I was younger, definitely there were no drones yet, but now they're able to be
Yeah,
used for surveying. But AI siguro wala pa, so no need to automate anything yet in archaeology
yeah.
now. No need for automation.
Wala pa,
Here,
wala pa.
I actually like this next question from Rosemary Latore. Um, the question is, what's the rarest artifact you found? Or if I were to rephrase, what's like one of the coolest artifacts you were able to handle?
Rarest artifact.
Siguro nasa museum na. Baka you were part of the team that placed one of the artifacts in our museum.
Actually, wala pa akong nakitang ganun na personally, wala pa akong personally na handle na something that's very rare. But the older archaeologists, those archaeological digs done during the 60s, that's really the peak of archaeological dig in the Philippines. They really found rare artifacts back then. Maybe that the one that really strikes me is the gold death masks. Uh, those death masks are placed in the eyes and the nose to cover the openings of the dead. So those are really cool stuff. Those are gold. They place it there. Another interesting maybe is the by the way, these materials are now considered national cultural treasures, and you will be able to find them in the museum if you visit. So they are displayed there. Another interesting and perhaps maybe one of the rarest is the gold plates put in the teeth, in the front teeth of the remains. This one is found in Bolinao, Pangasinan, and we now call it Bolinao skull. So actually, the rarest artifacts are now declared national cultural treasures, and if you will visit the museum, you'll be able to find it there. But those mentioned, those are my personal favorites, I think.
Yes, actually, we were able to go to the National Museum previously with some of the teams and coaches. They were able to see our what you mentioned, the artifacts from the Philippines, and actually very rich talaga yung history din ng Philippines. And we're glad that the National Museum is able to present that to our us, the common folk, kasi free admission at National Museum, so we can just walk in and see it. Really
Yeah.
appreciate our history and culture. Okay, so we have space for, I think, uh no, six more questions naman, so keep them coming. We'll pick some. This one from Raika Maligson. It's where type of lands do you usually find artifacts? So where's the most common places you guys look for artifacts? Is there any specific area
There's
that
no
you look, or
specific.
siguro someone tells you guys lang and you go?
Yeah, it's usually done during the survey. We will be fed with information where to go. Usually it's the LGU who feeds us information if ever they find something, or sometimes it's the DPWH, sometimes it's just the barangay officials, accidental find somewhere. But the more common sites, we have cave sites, we have sites along the beach, some sites are just by the roadside. So it's there's a good variety of sites. There's no particular sites for archaeological sites here in the Philippines. No.
Yeah. Okay, so actually on that note, sir, you mentioned that it can be found anywhere, even roadside. So actually, this next question from Zoe Faith Barao, what is a solution for sites that get damaged by human activities? Because you mentioned it can be found anywhere, so definitely
Mhm.
possible accidentally someone,
Yes.
uh, let's say, broke or ran by.
Mhm.
Are there solutions to help this, and maybe ways to prevent it? Or parang medyo mahirap, but maybe there is.
Yeah. Once the site has already been destroyed, maybe let's say there's a road construction, or let's say there's a building construction. One of the requirements actually of the government before you be able to build is to secure a archaeological impact assessment. So that's one of the protocols that secures the archaeological site. But if it's too late, let's say they already dug something and they already destroyed part of the archaeological site, then we can't do anything about it. All we can do is to just to visit the site and record whatever is left in there. So we will maximize whatever information is left in the archaeological site. Um, let's say they dug a burial site or a jar burial site, so they already destroyed the jar. So there's really nothing we can do about it if it's already destroyed. But yeah, whatever is left, let's say there's still materials there, then we'll just record whatever is left in the site.
This one's a personal question naman. These broken artifacts, are they still displayed in the museum, or are they just kept for record, even if destroyed?
The destroyed materials are still brought to the laboratory in the National Museum. We have an expert in reconstructing the, let's say, a jar. So, using scientific methods, of course, these are being built like puzzles. Yeah.
So here's a simple question from Ethan Dominic Ortiz. Um, they're basically asking how long does an estimate how long is the process from digging to taking it to the laboratory and then sending it to the museum. What's the estimate? I think you mentioned years, pero what's a
Yeah.
specific estimate? Like one
Yeah,
year,
for
two
let us
years?
say for an archaeological season, every year we can only leave for like 29 days out in the office to do an archaeological dig. So for just a single site, we will leave for 29 days. We will dig for 29 days, do all the dig, collect all the materials, and then bring it to the National Museum. And then until the objective is not yet finished, we will be going back there again and again until we find whatever is the objective of the research. Some archaeological research has been going on for like a decade now. Some are even we have archaeological sites way back from the 1960s, and until now we still keep coming back to those archaeological sites because uh, there's still a lot of materials. There's still a lot of archaeological information we can get because we still haven't really covered the entire sites. So some archaeologists are being trained by the more senior archaeologists, and then they will train a new generation of archaeologists to continue digging. So it's some sites are really long. Some sites can be finished in just one season. It really depends.
So I'll start
But
picking
for
questions. Ay, yes, go
but for
ahead.
the analysis, since the materials are now in the laboratory, some students still come to visit those materials and do further tests, further analysis. Some yeah, there's it can never really end. Depends on the research objectives.
Here because there's one question I really like here. I also had this question for myself. So, how do you survey and excavate when the archaeological site is underwater or submerged? Because the Philippines, being an archipelago, syempre, a lot of our areas are submerged underwater. So,
Yeah.
how can we find archaeological uh, ar- or artifacts when they're if they're underwater?
Okay. Actually, I was supposed to include in my presentation the underwater archaeology, but since our topic is unearthed, I didn't bother including the underwater. But in fact, we have underwater archaeology really. Another division in the National Museum focused on underwater archaeology. We have the Maritime and Underwater Cultural Heritage Division. So they do diving. They really dive underwater to do systematic recovery of underwater sites. When we say underwater sites, it could be shipwrecks. It could be sunken cities or sunken whatever, sunken cemeteries, sunken towns. So those underwater sites, to be able to do that, they need to dig. I mean to dive, and actually diving or doing an underwater archaeological research is really expensive. We need to collaborate also with foreign institutions because some needs to have the sonar technology to be able to detect whatever is underwater. Uh, of course, yeah, funding an underwater research is also very expensive. It's another division in the National Museum who does that.
So yes, of course, like many technologies exist, but I guess that is a problem we always encounter is funding because it is difficult uh, to have that technology to go underwater. Because if we have drones, of course, we need different technology for underwater naman. So earlier you mentioned we have a question here from Kat Mangubat. You mentioned going on hikes, so a lot of the areas you go to are inaccessible to just the average person. But how do you get the artifacts down from those said areas, whether mountains or let's say rocky areas? Kasi can vehicles able to access that? What if it's heavy? So how are you guys able to go about transporting such artifacts, if ever?
Okay, so doing an archaeological research in remote areas, we also need to collaborate with the locals. So we hire their services. They work for us as laborers. So they help us in our research. So if ever we need to transport materials from remote sites, so they will hike with us. They serve as what do you call this? The laborers cargador, something like that. So they will really bring the materials for us. And of course, we pay them the amount that is by law, whatever is the amount. Yeah, so we always work with the people in the local place.
So definitely, we're still it's an area for, of course, our students, our inventors na transportation. We've already seen a lot of possible places for them to think up of ideas with transportation and underwater. So one question that we will be asking is from Krister Serrano. Has the advancement of technology today make it easier to find these artifacts for you? Have you, of course, sir looks you look young, but maybe you know that back then was it harder, and with our technological advancements, is it easier now?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned in my presentation, those remote sensing technology, they really help in archaeology, especially when you want to know the extent of your archaeological site, because some sites are really massive, some sites are really, it's a big place in difficult places also. So those remote sensing technology, they really help, especially for the sites that's covered with forests, especially in the Southeast Asian, mainland Southeast Asia, in Cambodian areas, also in the Americas. So yeah, technology, especially the remote sensing, it's very helpful. For the analysis also of the materials, as I've mentioned also in my presentation, those really aid in the, if you want to know, if you want to dig deeper of out to want to get more information out of the artifacts, those technology available we use for the analysis of the materials, they really help. Yeah.
So definitely more on the surveying side. That's the what really
Surveying and analysis, they really
surveying and
aid in.
analysis, because of course we have our lab equipments, but definitely drones, the invention of drones definitely helped, and even yung
Mm-hmm.
radars, sensors, everything, because actually, sir,
Yeah.
all these things are actually covered in robotics. Yung mga sensors po namin, a lot of the students, and they actually know about these sensors, ultrasonic and such. So of course they'll be excited na ginagamit talaga sa archaeology. These things I'm learning
Mhm.
about, we use it in real life. So here we have
Yes.
another question from Resty Dometita. Hello, may I ask if when digging a site, is the type of rock an important aspect to be considered by archaeologists? Why or why not? Yung type of rock.
Yes, actually, the type of rock is also important when doing an archaeological research, because when you know the type of soil, let's say the soil or the rock in that area, it gives you also information like, let's say, we have a site in Pampanga. There's a layer that's covered with lahar. So we studied that because it gives you the idea when, because you already have an idea when that Lahar event happened, right, during the 90s. But uh, previous to that, actually, in the geological time, there's also previous explosions of the of the Mount Pinatubo. So you will have layers of the soil that gives you an idea, like the timeline of the events. It's marked in the soil layer. So studying the type of the rock, the type of soil in that archaeological site, it gives you information also.
So definitely the rocks and soil pala tell a story. Like you know that if it's like this here, it's a little bit different. You can start looking there.
Mm,
So
yeah.
here we have from Mark Errol Opena. Hi sir, if a rock detector is available, would it help archaeologists? So a rock detector, I think siguro like detecting specific rocks or
Minerals in the rock, maybe? I don't know. Not very sure if that will help because some of the elemental composition of the dirt sometimes can give you false positives for the materials, or I mean the artifacts, because some materials are, uh,
Mm,
common, and let's say for the bones is mostly composed of calcium, right? So if a rock is filled with calcium, let's say calcium carbonate, so let's say you're dealing with limestone rock, so it will give you false positive. So I'm not sure if it's really reliable to have a rock detector.
yeah, and actually, because I think you mentioned there's a difference then between our natural resources and artifacts mismo. I think
Mm-hmm.
the Philippines is rich with natural resources, but not necessarily artifact po siya.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here we have from Summer Anjali Decano. If you had unlimited resources, what kind of technology would you create to make archaeology easier or better? So if yung minention nyo pong mga budgeting, if you didn't have to think about budget requests or anything, from your experience, if you could create a technology, what would you create po?
I think for me, being able to see what's beneath a clear image, it will give archaeologists a lot easier work if you'll be able to see what's beneath the rock or what's beneath the soil. Because if you keep digging and you're missing the area that you should be digging, you know, that's waste of time and resources really. But once you know exactly where to dig, it will make a lot of change in your project, in your archaeological research. So having that technology, remote sensing, being able to see exactly where to start your dig, that will really help.
Yeah. So if it were like an accurate X-ray na pagtingin sa floor
Yeah.
mismo,
If
it
you
would
have an
see
X-ray
already
vision, just
the
look at
X-ray
it.
vision.
Yeah.
So clear. So we'll accommodate our last three questions. So
Okay.
this one is from Siv Chiari Novio. In what situations would an archaeological cave site be declared inaccessible, and how is research continued without direct entry? Actually, there were questions about disposer in areas that are, because you mentioned surveying, are there areas that are dangerous, inaccessible to people? How is the research continued if, for example, yun nga, can't be accessed by people?
Okay. So there are sites that are really difficult to access, uh, but we're still able to get into that site because dealing with we are a government agency, and we know how to deal with the local people, the other national government agencies. So if there we will find ways just to get that archaeological site, because getting the archaeological information out of the archaeological site, it really pays. I mean, the amount of being paid for that research, it's gonna be worth it once you have all the information that you need. But let's say, as per the question, it's archaeological cave site. Actually, we are the National Museum also part of the National Cave Committee, and we categorize caves whether it's class 1, class 2, class B. If it's a class 1 cave, it is usually not open to the usual cavers. It's only open to research. So we still get access to those restricted caves, even if it's declared inaccessible. So yeah, we
So
since we are the National Museum, we usually get it through our networks.
so far it's still accessible to people, so for you
Yes.
guys are still able to go in, and I guess kasi then being able to see it yourselves in person is still better, but
Mm-hmm.
siguro kasi it comes to a point where even you, it's too dangerous na po para sa inyo. have you ever encountered that problem that even for you guys, too dangerous to access?
If there's a will, there's a way. So even if it's dangerous, sometimes yeah, we always do something to make it accessible. If there's a will, there's a way.
So we have a question here. I think is this our last two questions? I think, or after this one. Okay. So JC Jericho Cervantes Opena. What are the ethical considerations when human remains or culturally sensitive materials are located in dangerous cave systems? So, are there any ethical considerations
Uh,
when you find human remains?
this is a very good question, really. Since we are a government entity, and we are bound to do ethical considerations to all our research. All research should be ethical. That's I think that's basic, um, especially when dealing with human remains. So since we are, let's say, we are archaeologists, we usually dig something that is way before. So let's say um, we need to deal with something that's related or located in a site covered by the indigenous people. Let's say they are the archaeological site is within the ancestral domain, and usually the indigenous people would say it's part of their indigenous community. They have claims to that human remains, but it's really, since we're talking about let's say thousands of years or hundreds of years, uh, we need to establish first their connection to that human remains to be able to have a claim for that human remains for the indigenous people. But since we are the government agency, we will just deal with their local rules and regulations. We undergo the FPIC. So FPIC is it's a critical step, especially if the site is within the indigenous people's community or the ancestral domain. So we undergo all the processes needed to make it our our work legal. Yeah. So yeah, we have all the steps. If we need to undergo it, we undergo it. We need to have, of course, the ethical consideration for the human remains, most especially.
So it's more on the ethical portion of going into someone else's area, the indigenous group. So ayun, narinig niyo yun, mga young inventors, whether it's people or even sending out your surveying and the robots, there are still ethical considerations. You can't just send something into their zone because
Yeah.
yun nga, it's trespassing even if it's your robots, your surveying your drones. So these are things to take into consideration even as inventors. Just because it's unmanned doesn't mean ethical na pumasok pa rin. So we'll entertain our one last question. Wait, sorry. All right. So last question from Sophia Celine Aban. If students were to invent a new tool or system for archaeologists, what problem should it solve? Like like the number one problem to consider when inventing something new.
This is a difficult question, huh? Inventing a new tool for systems for archaeologists. What problem should it solve? I think for the Filipinos, uh, it's for the analysis, maybe getting the age of materials because it's really expensive. My concern is really the financial now because in the National Museum, getting more accurate results for the research, you really need financial support. So to be able to do that, I think that's one of our main issues in the National Museum. We need financial support to support our research analysis. And some research analysis are really, really pricey, really expensive. If we can have those analysis here in the Philippines, if it will be sourced locally, it will help the problems of many local archaeologists because some equipment, some are just available abroad and we can't have it because it's really expensive to maintain such equipment. We don't have it here in the Philippines. So yeah, it's really expensive. So, dating tools, if there will be something that's more, I mean, it's locally sourced, something that's less expensive, if you can have it here in the Philippines, yeah, that's gonna, I think that's cutting edge tool.
Yes, and actually, sir, it's a valid problem because, as you know, well, personally, as a graduate of engineering, then it's one of the things we really consider. Number one, alternatives. So, as you mentioned, because it's expensive, having alternatives to cheaper is part of the consideration. So, ayan, young inventors, future engineers, mga pwedeng topics pang thesis. The Philippines, we don't have much dating tools yet. Definitely, if we make it more accessible to the Philippines, we'll be able to discover more. And on that note, I know that we said last question, pero ako naman, sir, personally, I have my own question, which is, um, so the Philippines, I know I went to the museum and I saw really how rich our history is. But out of curiosity, is it possible po, sir, that we can still discover something that we didn't know about, for example, time of the mga babaylan or from way back then because we learn it in history. Is it possible that we still learn something new? Na, for example, the elementary students their textbooks will be updated. Is that still possible?
Yes, for sure, definitely. There's plenty gaps in the prehistory of the Philippines, and I think there's a lot more to know when you do archaeology here in the Philippines. Let's say in my presentation, I mentioned that the earliest known human activity here in the Philippines was 709,000 years ago, right? But we still don't know who did it. We only have the materials, the tools that they used, but we don't know who actually butchered the rhinoceros 709,000 years ago. So there's still a lot of mystery in here in the Philippines that still needs to be solved, and we can only solve it through archaeological work.
So ayun, guys, you heard archaeology is a space of science where innovation can still happen and new discoveries can happen. So even with the advancement of AI and everything, the archaeological side talaga, we're still discovering new things. So in collaboration with our inventions, definitely you guys in the future can help out here. So I think that is all our questions for today. Sir Ivan, thank you again for answering all our questions and even
Thank you so much.
your presentation. So before we end, I would like to present you lang po, sir, with a certificate from us. All right. So this certificate reads, sorry, medyo maliit lang. Okay. All right, so this certificate of appreciation is proudly presented to Ivan B. Cultura in grateful recognition of your exceptional contribution as a guest speaker during the 15th First Lego League Philippines 2026 Talk with the Experts. Your profound insights and visionary words have empowered our young innovators to push the boundaries of robotics and STEM. By sharing your journey and expertise, you have played a pivotal role in shaping the next generation of Filipino leaders and problem solvers, awarded on January 24, 2026. So we would like to present this certificate of appreciation to you, sir. We will send this to you. And once again, thank you for accommodating us and giving us your time uh, this online talk with the experts event, sir.
Thank you so much also for having me.
All right, so I would like to just close us and thank everyone then. Thank you to our speaker. Thank you to our technical team. Thank you Miss Anne for also our FLL coordinator, and for everyone that stopped by the live, and for the many questions. I'm sorry if we weren't able to answer everyone's questions, but hopefully you guys got good information to help with your projects this FLL season. So again, I am Timothy Agustin, your host, and I would like to greet everyone a good afternoon. Bye bye.